So, my panel here, absolutely delightful. We've got Adam Atkinson, who is the owner of Cherchbi, and he's going to explain all about that. And I was looking at his bag earlier. If you want to see an example of what Cherchbi do, where is your bag? It's lovely. I'll ask to see his bag. We also have Zahra Ash-Harper, who is one of the co-founders of Antithesis, who are a slow fashion label. And we have Susan Postlethwaite, who's a senior lecturer and course director in fashion at the University of the Arts in London. So we should have a nice kind of perspective of what's going on. To kick us off, Adam is going to explain a little bit about Cherchbi, but also a little bit about why it started and things like that. So I'm going to go over to Adam.
Good morning, everyone. I've got exactly 8 minutes to do this presentation. It's not the main event. The panel discussion is. So clock's ticking right now. I pronounce it Cherchbi, but I'm from the north, so there we go. Cherchbi, a young brand with an engaging, relevant story and a unique view on British quality and integrity. This is very quickly what I'm going to run through, a summary this morning. Before I started Cherchbi, I worked for these brands, among others, and good experience, but I turned my back on it. I got absolutely bored of big brands, unsustainable manufacture, and that culture, basically. So I wanted to do something small, and it took a little time to decide what that would be. Eventually, after a little while, I settled on these values, basically. Modern design values, traditional quality, and locally crafted materials. And those are the three sort of core values that Cherchbi have. It's a uniquely British leather goods brand, inspired by British heritage, our cultural heritage, and we craft modern designs in a robust traditional quality. This is where it all started. I returned to Kendal in the Lake District and read a story about Herdwick sheep, farmers burning the fleece of Herdwick sheep. And this was a sort of little mini protest, I think. And that was the starting point for me, to try and do something with a fantastic natural raw material that was being discarded, it was completely underutilized. So 3 years later, I created a new tweed fabric from the sheep fleece. It took 3 years to develop, 9 trials, weave trials and spin trials. The length of time, through 3 full years of my time, and those 9 trials led to the name Herdwick number 10. The 10th was the success. The yarn is spun in Donegal. It's woven in Pembrokeshire in Wales. The cloth is finished in Galashiels in the Scottish borders, and it's waterproof bonded in Lancashire in the northwest of England. That's the fabric. The leather that we use to trim the bags is a British veg-tanned leather. It originates from Northern Irish cowhide, and it's tanned by a company called Clayton's in Derbyshire. The trim materials, the brass fittings we use, are cast in either Cheshire or Walsall in the West Midlands in a very traditional manner, as you can see from this photograph. This was one of our visits to the foundry. Our design is informed by British heritage, our heritage in equestrian and saddlery techniques, and we pair our designs down to their absolute essence. The natural materials we use that I just mentioned, in combination, they age really beautifully together. And that's the purpose of our designs. We manufacture in sample in Somerset, in a workshop in Somerset, and do the production manufacturing in a small workshop in Walsall in the West Midlands, just north of Birmingham. This slide tells a little bit about our provenance, where we where we produce, where all those raw materials come from, and all of our activities take place, all of the business activities take place. If you take a look at our website, you'll see more in-depth maps showing exactly where we do everything within the business. It's entirely transparent. A couple of key styles. This is the style that Fiona held up, or one of them. This is has become a signature piece for us, the black sail rucksack. We've done this in a lot of different fabrics, in our own tweed, in the fabric that I've got over there, which is a cotton linen, which is woven in Lancashire also. The piece on the slide here is a bag that's available in Dover Street Market at the moment. It's our own tweed, but it's been overprinted, hand screen printed, by a designer called Tamazin Gambel. Also, one of our mainstay styles, Squire's Holdall, which it's our classic Holdall in one of our classic colourways, satchel. I'm going to spin through these even more quickly. Our sales and distribution, these are two of the stores that we sell in the UK. We also sell in Korea, Japan, and the US, as well as a couple of stores elsewhere, but it's very, very tiny. In total, 12 stores, 12 stores globally. Our consumer straddles cultural, what we term a cultural, more traditional consumer, and a fashion consumer, and it's an ever-moving combination of the two. We market via our website, of course. This is our shop window. We don't have our own physical store, so this is our shop window. This tells the world what we do. Through Twitter, get in touch. Through Facebook, and through our journal. Also through our newsletter, which if you have any interest, you should sign up to. We publish a monthly newsletter, which is not about hard sell at all. It's more about what we do and why. We very rarely feature products on there, actually. It's all about more about how our products are made, or the stories of the people that make them. A selection of recent press. The press have been really kind to us since we launched, actually. We launched properly two years ago. And I think, there's a move back to British manufacturing. There's obviously a move towards sustainable businesses working in a sustainable way across design, product development, materials, and other aspects of business. And we, sort of fit into those categories, I think. So partly from that reason, partly for the fact that we're producing a pretty, good quality, robust product, which is relevant now, I think. So we've been lucky in that respect, I think. Running up to right now, we kicked off doing shows, doing trade fairs, and I'm pulling back on doing the trade fairs a little bit over the last sort of 9 months in favour of collaborating more. Now we've got ourselves out there, and we've sort of pitched our stall, and people understand who we are, what we do. We've attracted some interesting folk that want to collaborate with us. Tamazin, the screen printer I mentioned, is one of them, which led us into Dover Street, which is great. John Smedley is another one, elder statesman of British manufacturing. 228 years, I think, they've been making product in this country. Amazing. We've done a collection of bags for them, which are sold through their Brook Street store, the Mayfair store. The first time they've sold any product. That's the end. Almost done. That's the first time they've sold any other non-knitwear products, and they chose us to do that with, which is quite a thing for us. There you go, that's the end. I encourage you, I rattled through that. If you would like a copy of that, or you'd like to know anything more, or a bit more of that, then please get in touch.
Thanks, Adam. What would you say was your biggest challenge in all that? Because 3 years just to get a fabric.
Yeah, that was a big challenge, setting the business up and doing... Sorry.
Actually,
Probably the biggest single challenge is the manufacturing, handling the manufacturing and the production. You know, being a small business and trying to do a lot, you know, not just British manufacturing, but using British raw materials as well. I mean, yeah, everything's very local and close by, which is great, but the infrastructure of British manufacturing is just isn't there anymore. You know, it's been in decline for so long that that's probably the most difficult thing, I think, you know, production.
Zahra, you're nodding your head there. Do you first of all maybe just say a little bit about Antithesis, but also why you're nodding your head to Adam?
Sure. My name is Zahra Ash-Harper. I'm co-founder of Antithesis. We are a women's wear slow fashion label. We basically make transformable women's wear, so things are either aesthetically transformable or they're practically, functionally transformable. We make women's wear for sort of working women, people that are very kind of time poor, they travel a lot, and they want a small capsule collection that can kind of take them through their day, take them through their journeys. And so the whole concept is the whole collection fits into a multifunctional travel case, which then you can travel with. So that's kind of, you know, a breakdown.
Are you wearing anything today?
I am.
Do you want to stand up and show? Go on. This is a fashion
Okay,
day.
so this is our anti-blazer. It's a kind of loose cut boyfriend blazer that we've made. It's made out of a wool, and basically it has invisible zippers, so you can unzip. I actually can do this because I'm quite bendy. Yeah.
She's about to strip.
Don't make this any worse than it needs to be.
Oh wow!
So it basically becomes a waistcoat. Obviously, both come off. I'll take this one. I'm just going to sit like this now. I actually
asymmetric is this year. It's fine.
It's really in, just so you all know. But yeah, I find this really useful. Because it's an incredibly warm blazer. So I love it for that respect. I love being, you know, nice and warm, but also you can just remove sleeves and instantly your temperature drops. So for me, just that kind of practical functionality is fantastic. All of our clothes have very large pockets, and every piece, sort of pockets are our signature. Some of them are very big, you know, but they're all very practical. We believe in offering a practical kind of wardrobe for women on the go. So yeah, like every piece has a different thing that it can do. And some pieces are modular, some pieces are reversible, some pieces are just multifunctional, you know, in their aesthetic. And we're kind of very small, I should say, as well. We launched 2 months ago. We were MA graduates from LCF, London College of Fashion, and my business partner studied MA Fashion in the Environment. So she kind of brought a sustainable angle towards what we do. For me, and initially it was really about, the focus was on the consumer and women, and feeling that there was a gap, especially in the UK, for doing something that was a bit different within women's wear. So yes, and the reason why I was nodding, sorry,
no,
was because I agree completely. I think manufacturing and transparency are hugely important to us, but really like looking after that process and looking after the relationships and making sure that the product comes out as we need it to can be quite a difficult journey sometimes. And as a British as a British company, we're looking obviously to make sure that we're doing things, we're making a product that stands up to the British heritage. And I think there's a lot of different manufacturers with different standards out there, and finding the one that works for you can be difficult. We've gone to DISC, which is affiliated with London College of Fashion.
And who are they? They're the design...
I'm going to try design and manufacturing. Yeah, I can't remember exactly. It's DISC. But basically what they do is kind of what the CFE and the British Fashion Council do for designers. So they are trying to kind of stratify the manufacturing industry in the UK and make sure designers are aware of where they can go and make high quality products. And they're making sure, I think, that manufacturing is reaching a certain level, a certain benchmark, and encouraging manufacturers towards, for example, more visibility online, sort of clearer communication with designers so that everybody understands how to make that process work within the UK. I think it's an amazing programme.
Sounds very exciting. I mean, just the fact you're 2 months in, it's very exciting.
Yes, it is very exciting, also pretty terrifying.
So, Susan, as someone who has probably been seeing a lot of these trends for quite some time, What are you? I mean, what are you seeing that's changing? But also, with this manufacturing, you know, this is kind of Britain going back to what it used to be doing and used to be famous for, but it's still not quite there yet. Is that right?
Yes, I think it is right. I mean, we've got two examples here, really interesting. People trying to work in England, trying to work with English manufacturers, trying to work with English cloths. It is very slow to happen. And in fact, I first started talking about slow fashion back in 2005. I did a conference at the ICA called The Death of Taste. And actually, I was thinking about what Philip said and the death of fashion. We didn't dare call it the death of fashion in those days because, you know, quite complicated to talk about the death of fashion. But the changes that I'm seeing now in our ideas about slow are quite interesting because it also relates to what Philip has been saying. The internet and technologies have had a huge impact on how fast we can communicate. But it also means that in terms of design, designers can slow down because they only have to say something new when they've got something to say. And so there are these two layers of thinking, a fast layer and a slow layer, which are very interesting, particularly in terms of small businesses, I feel, because you don't have to step up and show your wares as often as perhaps the industry suggests that you should, but you can say something new when you really feel that there's something new to say. And that is quite revolutionary, really, actually, and the technology is really allowing us to do that, which is exciting.
And what other things are you seeing that's changed in the last, well, since 2005, where you just sort of went, oh, I think we're seeing something different here? What other kind of related to all this? Because, you know, I've been aware of fair trade and fair trade fashion for, gosh, since I was about 11. You can try and guess my age from that if you want. And this slower re-emergence of, I guess, not just slow fashion, but the provenance, the sustainability. What kind, are you seeing this increasingly popular, or is it just a trend that will go again?
I think one of the things that's really important that we're starting to understand now is an idea about well-being, actually. And not only well-being in terms of the way that you dress yourself and the way that you present yourself, which is really important, and an understanding that fashion supports that and makes us feel good about ourselves and makes us, helps us operate in the world, in the contemporary world. But also for designers and their sense of well-being, where you're really thinking about the manufacturing process and you're understanding your design to be special and what designers do to be special. So we're really understanding the psychology of slow now in a way that we didn't before, and that's very interesting, and that's a sort of burgeoning area within education now.
And it sort of fits in with Adam as well, and how it was almost, I'm tired of this. And what was it that you were really tired of?
I was tired of, I won't name names with the businesses I work for, but you know, with the big global sports brands, I was tired of seeing ever more production go to the enormous factories in Asia, particularly in Asia. The prices, or the price targets moving ever downwards, and the profit margin targets moving ever upwards, and all of this money being pumped into products which, you know, its inherent quality was reducing. You know, the cost of the products is reducing and reducing and reducing, and the quality of the products, you know, the trainers or the sports bags or the sports apparel that we all buy is just reducing. You know? And that's to what point? You know, that was my sort of question to myself at the end of it all. You know, it was just yeah, you know, that was the ridiculous sort of thing to me. And at the same point, you know, environmental awareness very broadly. I'm talking, you know, between sort of year 2000 and 2005, that sort of period, or 2007, say. You know, environmental awareness, my environmental awareness, and you know, all of ours, I think, was increasing. You know, sort of starting to understand, you know, oil prices going up and all that sort of stuff. You know, so it was the combination of those two things, really, and also a feeling about big brands. You know, I think there was we're all seeing this. I think, you know, this again, a very broad move away from large brands, particularly in fashion, and certainly in the area that I worked in sports, you know.
So the advantage, though, that all of these big brands have is scale. So, and whilst, yes, there is a price point, you know, some of these are, would you say you're in the luxury fashion market, either of you?
Well, I would say we're in the premium high street sort of level. Okay. And we do that on purpose, really. For us, our focus has really always been the consumer. I think the fashion industry changes somewhat in the sense that I think democratisation of fashion through things like Primark and the high street, as well as the internet. I mean, I'm a real believer in the fact that there's enough room for us all. I think the customer has spoken really and said that, you know, they're not necessarily brand loyal in the same ways that they used to be. I think fundamentally now it could be about going to a specific brand for a specific product, and that in that way being loyal. And I think that if you, you know, for us, our USP is creating capsule collections that are purpose-driven. So we really are speaking to modern women, the everyday woman, new woman, if you want to call her that. She does a lot of stuff, and she does spend money on fashion, but she also has an interest in practicality and quality. She's not completely trend-driven. And I think that's the way in which the fashion industry has kind of changed for us, that we can feed into, because it used to be kind of that you were told quite consistently what was on trend, what was in fashion, and then shown what was available. And now with just so many collections coming out and such a proliferation of fashion and design out there, and being able to access it in so many different ways, I think that voice from above is kind of diminishing slightly. So it gives us room, and I agree completely. You know, the internet has allowed a small business like us to emerge and exist. And as Philip was saying, 10, 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been possible. But it is a balance that we're always kind of riding, because when you're a small brand, obviously visibility is key. And for us, we really want to try and know the customer that we're selling to. So we're very vocal on social media platforms. You know, we try to attend events as much as possible, because the women that speak at the events, as well as the women that attend the events, are the same women as us and the same women that we want to speak to. So everybody really is our potential customer, but it means we have to keep our price in a certain category. Fundamentally, these women do not spend £800, £900 on a dress, you know, that they wear a couple of times. So we're very conscious of that, and that is also one of the driving factors for our business model. It means that we keep things local, we make short runs, so we can go back and manufacture. We have to sustain good relationships with our manufacturers, but we cannot distribute through stockists, because as soon as we do that, the price elevates to a point that our customer is no longer the same person, and we don't have a message that makes sense to the high fashion buyer.
So it's all about understanding your market, which we're going to be looking at later on, and also understanding just how the distribution mechanisms are working, where you fit within
Absolutely.
that.
For us, it was the other way around. Like, we did our research. Luckily, we had an MA, you know, in the time to do that. You know, it's not easy, I think, for a lot of designers. They see a route that's been established and they think they have to get on that path. But my only, you know, view is really understand where you're going to meet your customer in the end and how best to get there, and perhaps move backwards from it. For us, it was freeing. And actually, it was Toby Meadows that, you know, really solidified that idea for us in the CFE bootcamp, you know, that there were other routes to market and we didn't have to be a slave to the system. So we're slow.
Right, I'm going to, we've got sort of about 5-10 minutes just to ask some questions from you. So, okay, we've got immediate hand up there and immediate hand up there. Is there an extra mic that someone could someone just help me with the? Yeah, there we go. So if you could just say your name and then ask your question, that'd be great.
Oh, okay. My name is Arina Bragin, and my brand is made of carpet. I do carpet bags.
There's another bag in the room.
And my question to Adam, how did you source your manufacturers? Because I had through Nightmare. I tried to do it in England. It's Old Man Club. They have no websites. And I will tell the story. It was the manufacturer of metal parts. He did 10 frames for me. They were perfect. And after about 4 months, I called him. I said, okay, I need 500. He said, oh, dear, I'm retired. I said, well, but who is taking after you? Oh, nobody. I said, I will buy your factory. Just sell it to me. No, darling, I give it to scrap. Yeah. So he's somewhere between Scotland and England in a small village.
So Adam?
I end up doing it in France then. So, but French people very slow. So now I'm looking now to put it back to England. So, any advice?
I honestly think that are there any manufacturers in the audience at all? No. I'll say this anyway.
Feel free. Feel free. Talk free.
It's the relationship between a customer, a designer or a brand and a manufacturer. Doesn't matter where they are. It's always a difficult relationship, right? There's always quality issues. There's always other issues. Relationship issues that you need to sort of work out. So it doesn't. It's not entirely true. It's not exclusively a sort of British manufacturer's problem at all. French manufacturers are slow too. Yeah, so are Italians, and so are Chinese and Vietnamese, and it's the world over. It's a difficult thing. How did I find my manufacturers? Perseverance, and it's really about striking up a good relationship, and I think at the end of it all, a gut feeling. I went through 4 different bag manufacturers before I settled on the one that I'm working with now, and the one that I'm working with now I'm generally happy with. They are, generally happy with. There are always issues, but we can work together. We sort of understand each other, and we share a common goal. There are others that I share your point. There are other manufacturers out there that do things the way they've always done them and are part of a sort of old guard, and they have a place, and they sort of rumble on and do their thing. But I think I want slightly different things and a slightly more progressive approach to doing business, and I found a manufacturer that I can do that with. But it took the 3 years I was developing the tweed, I was running through these different manufacturers as well. So,
I spent a year.
What can I say? It's hard. If you want a list of manufacturers, get in touch. And we can, I quite happily share a few manufacturers. I've learned a little bit along the way. So.
Zahra, how did you find yours?
Thank you.
Well, it's legwork, I think, in the end of the day, for everybody. You really have to get a list. There are places like Fashion Alliance, for example, they have a website, and they have a great toolkit for just engaging with manufacturers, if nothing else. DISC have helped us. The East London Small Business Centre have helped us. Really, I think it's a matter of examining your network and seeing who has manufacturing experience and talking to them about where they've found manufacturers, and really just kind of them creating a list and pounding the pavement, going to visit them, and getting a sense of how they work. One of our manufacturers, Olga, she's amazing. She has a fantastic story. Somebody came to her and asked them to produce their whole collection. She did it on the floor of her bedroom and literally cracked it out. And literally within a year had then earned enough money from that one collection to go on to start up her own manufacturing unit. I can't remember I think we may have found her through the EFF actually, but I know she also works with the East London Small Business Centre, and her attention to detail is rigorous. But the difficulty I think in when you're a small business, and for us, we wield a power that not a lot of other small businesses do, in the sense that we don't wait for orders, we make our collections. So we're taking to her potentially between £8,000 and £10,000 worth of work off the straight off the bat, and she's making our prototypes, etc. So we have a certain amount of sway in the fact that we can say we need it at this time, we're going to be coming back to you in 6 months. And I think it's that kind of power play, and also always having alternatives. If somebody really messes you up, you have to move on, because otherwise they really feel like they can push you around, and sometimes the attitude's not correct, but other times you have to make compromises.
It's about building a relationship as well.
Definitely, I think it's just like a marriage, really. A lot of respect.
Yeah, both ways. So there was a lady over here.
question was exactly the same.
Okay.
I had decided to do a sportswear brand for kids, just as a hobby. But yeah, it was exactly the same question. I found it was such a closely guarded, protected secret that any designer you would come to see or brand, they would not disclose what sort of their sources. So yeah, I was just wondering what can be done really. And manufacturers are not online. There are lists, but they don't even list their specialities. And sportswear is a bit of a really sort of.
I think actually, doesn't UKTI have a list where you can search
UKTI, where are you? Oh.
Is it not? There's definitely, I thought there was, and you can also contact UKTI. We recently did for a little pamphlet on just UK manufacturing and UK manufacturers. That was really useful. Ta-da!
That was Make It Here, for those who didn't
so,
hear.
I mean, and you can search that way. It's quite useful. But I would also say definitely get in touch with, like, DISC, you know, and the Ethical Fashion Forum if you're looking to manufacture in the UK. They have a great network.
If you put disc fashion into Google, it's the first result, because I was looking at it yesterday. Okay, so any other questions? Someone in the middle? I'm being pointed... there, sorry.
It's a question for Adam.
Could you say who you are as well?
Armando Azevedo. Doing, just putting together my first menswear range. Adam, I'm just curious to know how do you find it in terms of how you manufacture your product, because it seems that it goes from one place to another, and you know, is it very costly, and are you making any profit? To be very direct.
Great question.
Yes and no.
Because it looks amazing,
yes,
by the way.
well.
I'm really liking to see what you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. It's yes, it is very costly, but and yes, we did turn a little profit last year. So you can do it. You know, it's possible. But you know, I don't know. You know, I've got nothing really to compare it to, because when I kicked off in sort of early 2007, and it took a little while for me to get going. You know, to get everything sorted out. So by the time I got the brand ready, and I showed it at Pitti Uomo in Florence, you know, we were in the middle of this economic situation we're in now. You know, so you know the good times had all gone. So you know, my products, there were some prices on the slides up there. You know, the product sits at a premium level, at a premium price point. That you know, there's not. I've got to say, you know, there's not enormous margin in there for Cherchbi. You know, that's a pretty sort of tight price point. So it's really up there. It's very, very difficult to do. I've got to say, you know, it's extremely difficult to coordinate all the raw materials and to coordinate the manufacturing. You want to do it all here. It's incredibly difficult. There's a lot of companies that manufacture in Britain and trade on that, you know. But in fashion, to buy your raw materials here and to manufacture here, we share this issue. I think this financial issue. The financial pressures on that are absolutely enormous, and I don't think it's sustainable to do that forever, you know.
Is there a way that you'll be able to grow, you know, because the ways that you can make money is by just greater scale, and, you know, that's usual ways that happens, but is that even possible with the way that you're doing everything and how, you know, the products you're using and all that sort of thing?
I'd love to say yeah, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's possible just to grow through volume, you know, and then that volume will bring the prices down enough to be, you know, to be very, very profitable. I think, you know, there's probably certain core materials you have to perhaps import, you know, and then what we will be doing is, you know, sticking always to British manufacturing, but perhaps importing quality materials from elsewhere. I think there's a, you know, within these four walls, there's a bit of a myth about you know, certain British materials anyway. You know, a lot of those, you know, the sort of the classic British materials aren't manufactured here anymore. You know, I don't know if they ever were, to be honest with you. You know, some of them. You know, there's British Miller-Rain and Ventile, and you you know, those fabrics, they're not made here, you know.
Susan, what are you seeing in, you know, the success of small British fashion houses and labels, and how are they growing, or how are they managing to kind of keep this authenticity but still manage to make money? If they can at all, because it's a very hard industry.
I think it's incredibly hard, actually. I think staying small is probably the answer, in fact. Not trying to grow too quickly, not trying to grow beyond your means. There's no reason, you know, we spend quite a lot of time within the course, within the university, looking at the economics. And, you know, contemporary economics would say businesses have to grow and keep on growing and keep on expanding. But there's no real rationale for that. It depends how many people you're supporting. It depends how many people are dependent upon that business. But why should businesses keep on growing and growing and growing? There's no real rationale for that as far as I can see. And we might really need to rethink the economics of that. So it seems to me that small businesses, keeping it small, being able to oversee the quality, being able to have relationships with manufacturers and suppliers would really be the way to go, actually. And those are the businesses that I see that are feeding the people who work for them in terms of their well-being, you know, and producing a beautiful product. And I think, you know, keep it small would be my answer.
So it's death of fashion, keep it small. We're going very radical today. Any other questions? Okay, one at the back. I might have to make this the last one because I'm sure you all want a cup of coffee.
Independent forecaster. There's obviously a symbiosis between technology push, which we heard earlier, and culture pull in fashion. And I often feel that maybe the culture pull has more of a possibility to enable British fashion to grow. You know, for example, at one point the miniskirt really had a real effect on the textile industry in the north, but then the maxi gave it a small respite before it actually collapsed. Do you think the culture pull has more potential than it is given?
Susan,
to create new, to design culture.
Culture versus technology. It was kind of culture versus.
Well, to design culture first, and then the technology will pull the technology rather than the technology pulling the culture.
One of the things that we are finding is that the plurality of fashion now. So there isn't this sort of top-down. There is one fashion. There's a multiplicity of fashions. And what this is actually breeding, particularly within young women, is a terrible anxiety about the way that they need to present themselves. And the technology is also driving a notion that if you appear on Facebook wearing a particular outfit one day, the following day or the following weekend when you're at an event, you can't appear to be wearing the same clothes. So fast fashion is also being driven by the internet and the web. And there's quite a lot of interesting anthropology about anxiety in fashion. So we have to be quite careful of societal pressures and thinking about the way that that might drive fashion. And one of the things that, as I've suggested, we look at within the course is society and the way that society is informing fashion. So people are more aware of fashion than ever before, but it's not always to the good. Okay?
And is it also tribal as well?
Can be very tribal, but it's incredibly mixed now. So people aren't following trends in the way that they used to, but mixing things up and taking from lots and lots of different places. And actually it becomes increasingly difficult to read fashion as such. And I think Philip's idea that fashion is actually dead is probably true in the way that we knew it and have understood it as being seasonal and you know, changing season by season. It changes very, very rapidly now. And this is something that is sort of, you know, forcing fast fashion.
Thank you all very much. I think a big round of applause, really, for our panel. Lots to ponder about, but we've only got 10 minutes to do that. because we're running slightly behind. There's going to be coffee just in the marquee, which you have to go all the way around. I'm getting big like hand signals from the back. If you walk all the way around, you will see. Keep just going, keep just turning left, and be back here in 10 minutes. Thank you.